A new poll made public this morning suggests that just 42% of registered voters would support the ANC in a national election. The same poll also says in KwaZulu-Natal just 26% of people support the ANC, and that there could be huge changes in who's governing in the provinces. However, as you know, still a long time before the elections, and in some places still a significant percentage of undecided voters. The poll was conducted by Professor David Everett. He's a professor at the Wits School of Governance. Professor, good afternoon to you. You did this polling for the new entity, Change Starts Now. You found that support for the ANC has really declined. Were you surprised at how weak the ANC was in your poll?
Sorry, good evening. It's a very tough question. It depends on what your expectations are going in. I think we wanted to go in. It was a very large sample that they commissioned. I mean, a 9,000 sample survey. So you really are looking for as accurate a set of responses as you can because your error bar is so low. And so I think we went in with an open mind. Clearly, every other poll has been pointing the ANC anywhere between 33 and about 45. So it's a fairly wide margin of error. We came in, it's 39 if you just take registered voters. It goes up to 42 if you take registered voters who intend to go and vote on election day. And that's where the ANC sits. So I think, surprised or not, we would leave to the viewers and to the ANC.
There are huge changes as well as what's happening in the provinces. I mean, what stood out for me was what seems to be a very low level of support for the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. And this was before Jacob Zuma started the new Umkhonto we party.
Yes, I mean, it's a pity we were infield when we were, because I think Umkhonto we may have, well, we have no idea, but it may have changed. If it changes anything, it'll affect ANC voters. It's not going to take DA voters or IFP voters. But the ANC support has collapsed. It really has plummeted to a quarter of the vote, heading towards a fifth. And the ANC is not in any position, if this is how the vote is realized on voting day, the ANC will not be in any position to dictate terms for a coalition. That would fall to the members of what is the Moonshot Pact. But the IFP is now level pegging with the Democratic Alliance in the province, and they must be feeling that they've got some momentum now.
It's quite something. I mean, if you look at the national picture for the ANC, to go from sort of, what was it, 56, 58%, to go to, 42 on this poll. I realize a lot could still happen. In KwaZulu-Natal, to go from being in government to 26%. I mean, that's dramatic. That's a huge decline very quickly.
I think Kgalema Motlanthe talked about the sins of incumbency about 15 years ago, but I think corruption, which came across in the focus groups we ran before the survey as well as in the survey, the ANC and corruption have become almost synonymous. And I think what the ANC has managed to do is there's a notion in politics that the ruling party can irritate its voters maybe once or twice a year. You can do something really stupid or bad, but generally if you don't, people will give you the benefit of the doubt. But when you're load shedding people every day, and their water is disappearing every week, and all these crises are building one upon another, you put yourself squarely in the sights of the voter. And I think that's exactly what the ANC has done, whether by omission or commission. They have made themselves synonymous with what's going wrong. And it looks like they're going to be punished for it.
In the Western Cape, your poll suggests that the DA could actually fall to, I think, 42%. There's this sort of narrative, and let me choose my words carefully here. There's a narrative in what I would call the middle-class English-speaking media that Cape Town, or the Western Cape, is much better governed than other provinces. That's one of the reasons that some middle-class people are leaving Gauteng in particular, and KZN to an extent, and going to the Western Cape. And yet, clearly, for the majority of people in the Western Cape, life isn't getting better under the DA.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a paid-up member of the chattering classes, so I understand what you're getting at. And certainly in that group of people, as I say in the article, the DA in the Western Cape is regarded as the gold standard of governance. But in our focus groups, people are saying it really depends which side of the mountain you live on. So if you're poor and black and you live in the Western Cape, it is not a nice place to live. If you're white and middle class, as presumably you and I are, it's a lovely place to live. But I think there's a deeper problem facing the DA, and I think the issue of attitudes to Palestine and the conflict that's going on there will certainly not have helped the DA in a way it's playing that game. But I think we found a more deep-seated problem for the DA, which is in all previous elections that I've polled, which is all of them since '94, the DA has always had a sense of mission. A sense that they were there to save the country, that you were really driven to vote for the DA. Even when it was small, the Democratic Party under Tony Leon, they had the sense that we can do great things. We've really, in our voter segmentation, that's really declined dramatically. So that people are voting DA out of a sense of, it's my party, I'll go vote for it, which to some extent is what's happening to the ANC as well, is that I vote because that's my party in the end of it. And I think the DA has lost that crusading zeal amongst its cadre. And if you don't have them organizing on the ground, you won't turn out the vote. And I think that should be of concern to the DA.
Professor, I mean, obviously huge amounts of speculation about what could happen, what will happen, what won't happen after the elections. Lots of it, again, in the chattering classes that you and I belong to, that the ANC, based on this poll, would simply have to do a deal with the EFF. Is it really that simple? I mean, and let me personalize it, would Cyril Ramaphosa really give so much power to Julius Malema?
I mean, if you look at the slide that we gave the Daily Maverick to release on leadership, if you look at someone like Julius Malema, he's got 98% name, and everyone knows him. But half of the people who know him say they will never vote for him. And that's higher than almost anyone else who's got decent numbers. And so going in with the EFF is risky, because they are seen as rude, intemperate, discourteous. Older voters in particular are completely disinterested in the EFF. So on the one hand, it's an easy mathematical thing. You know, if I'm sitting on this and you're sitting on that, we can stay in power. And the chattering classes will all say yes, and you'll all keep stealing. But I think it comes with major risks for the ANC, because the EFF's job as the rival African nationalist party is to show how bad and corrupt the ANC is, and therefore vote for us in the EFF. They're not friends, they're rivals. And I think it would be very short-sighted to just reach for the EFF as if merely being in power were enough. It almost certainly guarantees if they do that, certainly at a national level, they won't be in power in 5 years' time, because I think the voters are already signaling that that's really not what they want, if you look at the way they responded to the moonshot pacts. And I think that would be anything to stay in power at any cost. And I think voters are not stupid. They'll see that for what it is.
Professor David Everett, thank you very much indeed. Professor at the Wits School of Governance, who conducted that poll.